Hey, welcome everybody to episode 29 of Trend Talks BizSec. I'm your host, Jon Clay, VP of Threat Intelligence at Trend Micro. And with me today, as always, is Greg Young, VP of Cybersecurity at Trend Micro. Greg, how you doing?
Hey, very good. May we live in interesting times.
We do. And this is going to be an interesting topic today. I thought we kind of came up with it at the last minute, but we're going to talk about the state of cybersecurity in 2024, which has a lot of implications and a lot of places that we can go with, Greg. And I'm excited to talk about it. Let's kind of start by let's talk about what is the state. I mean, we're every day in the news we get a new article about some company getting breached, some ransomware group that's been successfully hacking somebody, making $20 million in a ransom recently. We got a ransomware group that decided to screw their affiliates over and take the money and run. But companies continually are getting hit with these attacks, and yet we're supposed to have the most sophisticated cybersecurity in the world today. But what's going on?
Yeah, I think some things are not getting better. Some things are, but overall, we haven't solved security yet, despite the predictions to the former and all the predictions over the years that we'd have like two security companies only left, or or operations would do all the security, be built into the operating systems and things like that. This has not happened. So we've got really good fire departments now, if you use that fire analogy, but the fundamentals of the problems haven't changed. So there's been some tinkering around the edges, but still, when we look at those basics of things like, hey, we've got vulnerabilities that are still happening in products at an increasing rate. The bad stuff is happening at an increasing rate too. Coincidence? No. The fundamental stuff still has holes in it, and that's why that's why we still have all these bad things happening.
Yeah, it is really interesting to follow this whole thing because, like you said, I mean, I've been in this industry 27 years. You've been in longer than me, and yet, the same things that hit companies 20 years ago continue to hit companies today. I mean, phishing still seems to work. Malware continues to be a problem. All of those kind of things. So I guess, and yet AI is supposed to be the new savior, right? When we, back in the day, SIM and SOAR were supposed to be the next coming of Christ in cybersecurity, but that didn't take a foothold and hasn't done what it's supposed to do. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about the actors first, and maybe what have they done differently today than they did years ago, or have they done anything differently? From what I see, there isn't a whole lot of shifts there, right?
Yeah, they're much more organized, I think, as you're the expert. So, but they're much more organized, and the fact that you even said affiliates before, that's something that would never happen before. Yeah. There'd be three bad guys in a basement, and that was it. But now these are organized businesses. This is a business now.
Yeah, there's no question that they've done that, right? I mean, these practitioners of cybercrime have been around for 20 years and they've perfected their business. They're actually building the businesses and so forth and making it easy for them. You talk about affiliates, right? It's like a franchise business in the US where you have franchises that are making tons of money selling the same product. And, the product comes from the main person or main company, and they provide it to their affiliates, and those affiliates just go out and do their thing. So that certainly that has changed a bit and made it a little more difficult for us. But when it comes to the actual attacks themselves, I think we're still dealing with phishing. We're still dealing with, email threats.
Right.
Bugs are still a problem. 0 days, whether it's 0 days or end days, they're still getting through the defenses. So I think we need to think about shifting the way we actually protect our networks than anything else, because the tried and true and the old paradigm of multi-layered defense, multiple products, multiple vendors of products, putting in place to make sure if somebody doesn't catch it, the other person will. That's all out the door anymore, in my opinion.
Yeah, things are different. And by the way, the industrialization of the threats is interesting, and also the state-sponsored shielding of threat groups is something we never saw before. Like governments would attack governments, and the local car dealership wouldn't get hit by somebody who was sheltered by a state, but that's clearly changed. So no, I think there is some change. I'm actually the most optimistic I've been in probably a decade about some of the changes. You mentioned AI, and lots of AI in the news. It's a great sort of it's great clickbait, but I think it's actually a fantastic opportunity for defensiveness. That I think it's going to not be a big deal on the threat side, despite the hype. I think it's going to be a fantastic thing on the defense side for protecting us. So that's great news. But also, there's huge steps we've made in things like visibility, like attack surface, risk management, and just having this AI or automation assist us with being able to find things. It's good news right now. So visibility, ASRM, true platforms that bring stuff together. And there's a whole sort of talk about platforms I'd like to have, just about how this has evolved and what it really means today versus what it was. But bringing that telemetry together, like that's what computers are supposed to do, help us with hard tasks. So I'm really optimistic, actually, that we're right on the cusp of a big change right now.
I actually agree with you, Greg, because I've been following the AI thing for quite a long time, and obviously the defense side we've been involved in for many, many years. But truly, the computing capability today and the use of AI or machine learning or generative AI is at a point now that it actually can take advantage of all this massive amount of data that we take every day, every second of every day. And they're able to take that and throw it through that AI process and come out with actual contextual information for customers to be able to do something about a threat that is targeting them today. We didn't have that capability, even 5 years ago, maybe, 10 to 5 years ago, just because it wasn't available and it wasn't capable of doing it at that time. So like you said, I think we're at the cusp of a real paradigm shift in cybersecurity moving forward. The challenge I see is that we need companies and businesses, from small businesses all the way to large enterprise, to shift in this place. And we know that that's like turning an aircraft carrier. It's going to take many, many years to see that shift over to this new style or this new model that we're using, but it will get there eventually. Unfortunately, it's going to take some time. But, you mentioned the whole platform thing. And I know in the news recently, we had a little spiff between the Palo Alto CEO and the CrowdStrike CEO between on platforms and the use of them and how it's going to evolve. I'd be curious your thoughts on that. Being as a former Gartner analyst, you obviously look at the market a little different from us, being in the trenches, so to speak.
Yeah, history tells us so much, right? And I think you have to understand technology, you have to understand the history of it. So we look back at what's gone on with sort of the ability to gather information. AI without information is pointless, right? So gathering telemetry, be able to get it, and then making the decision to grab it and having the tools to gather, you're absolutely right. It doesn't happen overnight. There's no magic AI Band-Aid or security Band-Aid that's going to fix everything. It's got to evolve, but selecting things that give you more telemetry, have it available, aren't some lockdown API or some platform washing kind of stuff. Getting it, and then what you do with it, collecting it, and that's the real. I think that's the real way forward. So when I'm out looking at companies right now, and I see ones who are pulling in more telemetry, getting more and more and more information about themselves. Threat hunting, separate field. Yes, you can get information about that. That's helpful, but it's ourselves right now is the big issue. We don't know enough about our internal environment because it's always changing.
Right.
So that's I think is the game changer. So to me, a platform is something that all that stuff can go into and gather it. And it's not about events. It's about telemetry and full amounts of information, and then being able to do something with it. So actually the responsive thing, and that takes a level of interaction that, I don't think is available in SIM and the like. So true platforms are not just buy all my stuff and I'll send you one invoice. No, it's about your mixed environment. Yes, there may be one dominant sort of piece to that. And that's going to naturally continue to evolve, of course, but it's not going to be 100% one vendor. It's going to be a dominant vendor, but one who will also pull in the other stuff. And you're going to have to make decisions about stuff that other stuff, is it, what are you going to pick? You're going to pick stuff that you kind of like, but doesn't give you telemetry, or you're going to make that hard choice and say, here's something new I've got to put in that's going to give me that telemetry I need. Yeah, that's going to help my overall security picture, despite my certifications or my, my vendor preference. It's a portfolio decision now. It's platform and portfolio, and that's CISOs become portfolio managers now.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the studies where a large enterprise probably has 30 to 40 security products in their portfolio, even higher, right? And so that obviously in of itself is a challenge for them, because you think about the attack today. The attack it can be across multiple adversaries, right? You could have initial access brokers who get into your network initially, and then they sell access to another group. It could be a data exfil group. It could be a ransomware group. So you could have multiple groups inside your network. Also, they are moving across your network today in all the different areas, depending on their motive, right? Some may want to go to your cloud. Some may want to go to your data center. Some may want to just be around the network and sniffing network traffic. Some may want to go to a CEO's laptop because they've got great information, or one of your M&A people because they got great information that they could help them to buy or sell your stock in the future. And the challenge we've had in the past is with all these siloed products out there, you might see the attack in the cloud. You might see the attack at the CEO device, but you can't hook it together that this is a full campaign against one campaign against my organization. And the ability now, because AI and the computing capabilities are there, now you can take all that telemetry data and you can actually crossbreed it, cross-reference it, and come up with a logistical probability that, hey, yeah, this is a group targeting this, this, and this. And now I need to look at where do I need to throw defense mechanism? Where do I need to add to my capabilities to lower my risk in these areas? We're even seeing now where you can actually predict maybe where they are moving in my network so that you can now start hardening up some of those areas in real time so that they can't get access, because it's all about, they're going to get in, right? That's a no-brainer. They're going to get into your network. How quickly can you identify them, and how quickly can you get rid of them? And that's, I think, the big question mark. And that's one of the things with the recent Microsoft with Midnight Blizzard. They obviously have had access to the Microsoft network for quite some time. As a defender, I may realize that Midnight Blizzard's in my network, but how do I ensure that they're eradicated? I don't know if you can actually do that, Greg. What do you think?
Right. Oh yeah, and that's why also in the news this week was one healthcare company got healthcare provider got hit. It's been affecting the economy. It's such a large relationship. But for them, why is it taking so long? You're exactly right. It's because you've got to eradicate it. And where do bad guys hang out? Well, where you can't see them.
Right.
So that's what lateral movement's about also. They're going to go to the places where there are no cameras, there are no tripwires, and they're going to hang out there and do their business. And that's it's really hard to eradicate. This is bed bugs.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. They're going to drop a backdoor into an OT network, for example, that you don't monitor on a regular basis, right? But that just gives them access and I can pivot from my OT network back into the IT network because it's an easy thing to do in today's connected world, so to speak. So it is. I think the state of cybersecurity in 2024 to me, Greg, it's a combination, right? There's good and bad about it, right? The good news, like we said, is I think AI and some of the new techs coming, the platforms that are coming are very good for the defense side and the defenders. We're going to get better at what we do. But on the flip side, the adversaries are, like you said, they are coordinating, they're collaborating, they're getting better at what they do. And they're going to figure out ways to get around these new controls. And that's been the cat and mouse game forever and ever.
Absolutely right, and flexibility is part of it, and customization. So for the attackers, they've been flexible, right? They adapt, they move laterally, they try different kinds of payloads and the like. Whereas in the defense side, the history of the platforms, or what they call platforms, these weren't customizable. This was these two products plugged together, and this is going to change this reading. You can't change that at all. Instead, it's got to be in real time. I have to be able to change my view, change the connections I make between things, what kind of telemetry I pull in, the weighting I give it. That has to be in my control as an operator, not in the vendor's control. And they're just going to give me this one easy button that I'm going to say, good or bad. No, it can't work that way, because my environment is going to be different. This part of my network and this type of technology is going to have different weighting, or the threat has changed since that product was produced. And now I know I have to do these things and look for this part of my environment. So,
well, I mean, case in point is business email compromise and phishing technology, right? We've gotten very good at detecting this stuff, and now comes along deepfake capabilities, right? And how do you detect deepfake? No one really out there can detect a deepfake at this point. And so you're going to have to evolve new technology and innovate new technology to come up with, because they're going to start using this tech to target the customers. So it is.
You mean that wasn't Kate Middleton who sent me her picture today telling me I should send her money? So.
Kate Gate is a thing, right? And it's going to happen. Right? So, yeah, it's a fascinating industry to be in, to be honest, Greg, because the thing that's crazy is it is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing. We're doing good in the world, which is great, but we got to defend against these adversaries who continue to grow, and you're going to see more and more of them come into play because like the group that hit Change Healthcare just made $20 million and went away because apparently that's retirement money, apparently.
In some parts of the world, it's long-time retirement money.
Yeah. Well, I think we've probably got more to cover in this thing. In future episodes, we can talk about the state of cybersecurity in the second half of 2024 when that day comes. But this has been a great discussion, Greg. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a really important topic too right now about this, portfolio management by CISOs. And this is not all about technology, and it's not all about compliance. This is the stuff that spreads across that. So much like how we have to be able to view our whole networks, this stuff all has to be in sync. You can't just exceed in one area and ignore others.
Yeah, 100%. Well, hey, listen, everybody, thanks for attending episode 29 of Trend Talks BizSec. Greg and I will be back in 2 weeks to talk about another topic, but leave us a like, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you in terms of any topics you want us to cover in the future. We'd be happy to do that. So everybody stay safe and healthy out there. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, John. Talk to you all soon.